Hey everybody, it's Liam DiCosimo. I'm here for the Audiobook Lovin Podcast with a special excerpt from a chapter from a book that I recently completed called Bad Habits, which was written by Onley, James, and Neve Wilder. I'm currently working on the sequel to the book, but I thought this would really give you a taste of something fun that exists in the realm of male-male romance, but maybe a little bit different than what we're probably used to. So this character is Jonah. He's one of the two characters in the book. The other one is Caspian, and it's a little bit of an age gap, but also a caretaker romance. So I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I enjoyed performing it. So here we go. Hopefully I don't mess up too bad. Jonah had called it. If asked to explain, he'd say it was the French cuffs, the faint shadows beneath the man's eyes, or maybe the way his stride across the pavement toward the car had been a little shorter than what Jonah judged him capable of. Something about the man struck Jonah as tentative, or depressed, or tired. All possibilities. But Jonah wasn't a doctor or a psychiatrist, just a killer with good instincts currently holding a length of shoelace to his mark's throat. The man's aftershave smelled expensive, and he didn't struggle much, though Jonah had called it. The latter fact fucking annoyed the shit out of him. The guy was in ridiculously good shape. Jonah could feel the muscle tone and sense of power thrumming through the man's body. He clearly worked out, went to a gym, and yet his blunt fingernails tore weakly at the skin of Jonah's forearms with something almost like resignation. Jonah tightened his grip on the string and held steady, every muscle in his body locked and tense. Certain jobs were more about patience than viciousness. He had both in spades. In the rearview mirror, knocked askew during their initial disappointing scuffle, Jonah watched the man's eyes roll wildly side to side as oxygen deprivation took its toll and he lost focus. Close. Very close. Another 20 seconds or so, Jonah guessed. When the man's gaze suddenly locked onto Jonah's, a jolt ran up his thighs, the tiniest suggestion of a thrill that the man might have found his spine late in the game. The kind of thrill Jonah wasn't supposed to get. The kind the aforementioned psychiatrist studied. No. Judged. The kind he'd not had when he first started this fucking job. But now? Well now, deep down, Jonah craved moments like this, anticipated them. Some feral animalistic part of his brain flexing its claws, alive and well despite time and advancing civilization's best efforts to stamp those instincts out. The man bucked forward, and grim satisfaction tightened Jonah's muscles. Try that one again. The man bucked forward, and grim satisfaction tightened Jonah's stomach. They'd arrived at the final push, the last surge of fight-or-flight adrenaline. Jonah's breaths came in shallow gasps of exertion, and his heart pounded the same way his marks did. There was a deep intimacy in these last shared moments that even Jonah was a little reluctant to acknowledge, knowing that, once he did, it'd be a sure sign that his lizard hindbrain had finally, fully taken over. Until that moment came, he could still claim a few lingering shreds of humanity. Seconds passed, and then everything went still and soft. Jonah's blood hummed in his ears as he relaxed his hold on the shoelace. The man slumped in the leather seat as Jonah tucked away the shoelace and pulled a small spritzer bottle of lab-grade DNA sanitizer from his back pocket. He sprayed the interior of the car liberally and gave it a quick wipe-down. Exiting the car, Jonah stopped to stretch, muscles singing and endorphins flooding him with a familiar euphoria. He imagined it was what a doctor felt when saving a life on the operating table. Except, not at all the same. He stifled a chuckle and pulled the Cubs cap he'd brought with him low over his eyes as he stepped into the garage's piss-scented elevator. He leaned back against the wall, the man's name already fading from his mind, though he wondered over the specificity of the request. Shoelace. There must have been some significance in it that he wasn't in on. He'd swapped classic cotton for a thicker nylon weave because he didn't trust the cotton not to break, which would have been a very fucking inconvenient. A bullet would have taken a fraction of the fucking time, though. Jonah shoved the thought away to rest alongside the man's name. Best not to wonder. It didn't matter anyway. Death by strangulation was the same as death by bullet. Only two people, the client and the mark, knew the difference. 3 if Jonah included himself, but he tried not to. He was nothing more than a shadow that slid into the corners at first light, the cock of a hammer, the click of a lock, a voice on the other end of a temporary phone number. He existed transiently, and he liked it that way.